wrong one. Welcome to the Theatre of the Mind. I think it's live 296. Let me just cream me gogs, and then we'll get the frame sorted, and then we shall get on with it, so to speak. Lovely. Right, that'll work. Will that work? Yeah, that'll work. My head's actually full of stuff today. I'm just trying to work out certain things and map certain things for you this evening. Lots of interaction as ever. It's a Wednesday night. But I feel by the time I finish this, because I said this on Monday Nights Live, what I'm attempting to do with these lives is clarity in the chaos. I'm cutting through the bullshit. I'm cutting through everything, the fog of war. As I said on Monday, and have said many times on these lives, what's the first casualty of war? The truth. And tonight, I believe I've got to some semblance of the truth. And it's absolutely, categorically, not what you are being fed by the mainstream media. Absolutely not. A lot of people are talking to me behind the scenes, and they're worried that it's World War III, and it's this, and it's that, and the other. So my main aim this evening is to allay your fears, to lessen your anxiety, and to tell you the actual truth of what's going on, because it's complex and it's deep. So please try and stay with me. Everybody coming into the body of the Kirk this evening, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hibiscus is ready. I definitely need a little bolt of Jägermeister in there. I'll get to your comments in a second. But what can I say? This is needed. Tonight, what I'm going to do is needed. And it's needed because the parody on the front of the Sun, Katie Price, I mean, she's been married more times than the fucking Pope. New hubby Lee is no con artist or catfisher. He's the one. She's just a PR machine, that woman, and turkey teeth, and lifters and droppers and Botox and fillers. And I mean, she's kind of the caricature, the cartoon of our times. And then the front of, I don't know whether you saw PMQs today. I was going to talk about it. Then I just decided, no, ship happens. Ship with a P, obvs. And PMQs. It was just rollicks. Everything that's been going on today is enough to make a saint swear. So I just thought I'm going to go and cut through the brown stuff. That's all I can do for you. Just cut through it. And I've got some people very close to me, very worried. And I've told them not to be. Because the thing that you have to ask, and this is important, the thing that you have to ask is, so the Donald bombed the buggery out of the supreme leader of Iran on Saturday, made him a martyr across the Muslim world. His son is now the new supreme leader, from what I'm being led to believe today. So, nature abhors a vacuum. Like father, like son. Who knows? But there's not really... Hello, Kia, mate. Can I use some of your ships? Oh, Donald. Well, you can, but because we've cut back on defence spending, we haven't got any on the water. What do you mean, Kia? Well, I mean, yes. Well, I'm saying yes. Is it as per international law, Donald? Oh, I don't listen to international law, man. I'm not a law man. I'm a bloody businessman. You and your bloody barrister mates, man. Oh, well, you know, Donald, there's no need to be like that. Look, Kia, mate, I just want to know, you're going to lend us your boats? I've got one. I'll let you have one, but we'll send it out to Cyprus. I don't need it in bloody Cyprus, man. I need it in Diego Garcia. Oh, don't mention the bloody Chagos Islands, Donald. No. Please, no. Oh, I'm in enough trouble with the Chinese Communist Party as it is. Bloody Ukrainian red boys. Right, okay. We'll have that boat, whatever it is. We'll have that boat and we'll take care of the rest. And here we are Wednesday, after bombing the buggery out of Iran on Saturday. One, There's one word missing in all the reportage. One word. Israel. Because Israel was bombing the shit out of Iran. Iran was bombing the shit out of Tel Aviv and Israel. And Bibi Netanyahu, who's a war prime minister, don't forget. Because I don't need a pardon now. I'm still a war prime minister. So we get to Wednesday and what's happened? Nothing. So that's why I'm doing tonight the way I'm doing tonight. I'm going to go layered. I'm going to get in. I'm going to give you certain things. And before I start, I am going to ask you a question. Before I get to your comments, I am going to get to a question. And the question is really simple. Very simple. Hang on, let me get me top of my page. Have you heard of the Triffin dilemma? Have you heard of the Triffin dilemma? Now, I acknowledge I've got the most intelligent audience on YouTube. That's why I can do all of this. You can Google it if you want before I get to it. The Triffin, Triffin, Triffin dilemma. Because I will kind of elaborate what that is all about. Yeah, wrong. Anyway, let's get to some of your comments. Paulie Galtieri, welcome to the body of the Kirk you're on. Neil Cunningham, good evening, wrongregation. That's very good. Speaking as a Liverpool fan, it's the worst defence of a title since Jimmy Savile tried to keep his knighthood. Wolves, Neil. Wolves. They're certainly not, but they did last night. God, blimey. Because I went to bed early-ish before the match had finished. It was 0-0 when I went to bed. Des Ashton, fear not wrong-uns, as part of the wrong-grication. If I can say that properly, Neil, I will use it lots. Thank you. Fear not wrong-uns, depending on the type of weapon Cyprus is, 0 to 40 minutes from Iran. Our destroyer will arrive on station sometime in the next 4 days, but that may be an accident, says the Ministry of Defence. I mean, PMQs today. Kemi Badnock just came across as an angry black woman. Starmer just sat there like, well, just like Keir Starmer, devoid of any personality or character. I mean, if I hadn't been told that he had 2 kids, I would have sworn he would have used his personality as contraception. So welcome, Des. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Stuart saw the videos of the Clintons yesterday. Oi, oi, oi. Not looking good. Oh, I've seen all the clips, all of it. I mean, Billy Bob is going down. He's going down. And I saw one of the clips, seemingly a dozen times. Hillary turned round to them and she wasn't very happy with them. Somebody's taken my picture. They've done what? Bollocks to that. I've had enough. I'm leaving. And everybody went, no, you can't do that. Oh, I've had enough. I'm off. Shall we take a break, everyone? And then Billy Bob's come in, and now they've got body language analyzer people. Not the body language guy. I don't know whether he has, but some American guy has had a look and gone, oh, my word, that's guilt. And then he was looking at these pictures, and he was taking his time over him in a hot tub with some female. I mean, do you know, if my hands were doing this all the time, you'd be like, Rev, what's wrong with you? Well, he's 80-year-old now. I wonder what's going on with William Jefferson Clinton. Because, I mean, if I needed a martini, shaken, not stirred, I'd give it to him first. Because he was having this drink of water, and I thought that's going to end up on his tie, on his suit, in his face. He's like, whoa, oh, hang on, hello, target is the mouth, made it. I mean, you can't make this up. It is clown world. It is theatre, darling. It is the circus. I think it was Stuart. Yes, Stuart. I've seen some of the videos. Laughed at them all. He's as guilty as insane. Body language men, observers have said it's a Pinocchio syndrome or something. So he says something and he goes, And the body language guy said, "Whoa, look, oh, look. He's poking the Pinocchio, he's picking his nose, look. And I'm like, so I've seen loads of people at traffic lights picking their nose, so that mean they're guilty. So, yes, Stuart, I uproariously watched the videos of the Clintons, the deposition released yesterday, and hacked to bits by people and laughing me cap off if I was wearing one. And Napoleon Bonaparte says, "Good afternoon, ladies and gents of the glorious Kirk of the Battenberg, the wrongregation. Evening, Rev. We hope you're well and full of vim and vigour today, as they say here. Full of spunk." Well, I plead the fifth in Napoleon Bonaparte. Oh, the rumours, the rumours. Just have a look at the ceiling. You know what I'm saying. Stop laughing at me, man. I see you, says Starmer is very good at distraction. Chinese spy as a partner of a Labour MP. Any ideas? Well, there was loads of them. I mean, even one of the Lib Dems had the cheeky girls. I mean, I don't know which one he had because they were identical twins, so it might have been a threesome. Not sure. Lembit. Can't think of his name. Rhymes with Ozempic. So 3 men have been arrested today because they're Chinese spies. One of them is the partner of a Labour MP, and they named the Labour MP, I don't know whether it was Sky or BBC, one of the news channels, and the Labour MP's gone, female, obs, she's gone, no, he's not a Chinese spy. Well, he's been found out. He's been caught. So has she been passing anything to him and him passing on to the... it's all about the Benjamins. And I'm not talking Netanyahu either. I must apologise because my eyes are not very well today. So I've had to put drops in just before I started, and I can't really... The screen is too much for my eyes tonight. So I apologise if I'm giving it this to try and see what you've put in the comments. So I see you. Welcome to the body of the Kirk as ever. Andrew James Starmer needs to go back to youth and listen to Lean On Me by Redbox. I met Redbox once. I think they came to do an interview at TFM about a train. Can't remember what the track was, but Andrew James, what a great song. And Redbox, Lean On Me. Enver says, "I see you. It's 39-year-old David Taylor." Oh, there we go. The husband of Scottish Labour MP Joni Reid. Oh, hello, this is Joni. What was that? Was that car 67? Oh, I may get sidetracked here. I've got to be serious tonight. But Enver says, "I see you. It's 39-year-old David Taylor, the husband of Scottish Labour MP Joni Reid, East Kilbride and Strathaven. He's a director of a London-based think tank aimed at strengthening links with Asia. That was a great album by Steely Dan. I see you, says Enver. Thank you. Well, why has this come out now? Surely Starmer knew. They all, well, sometimes they don't. But as Kemi, the very angry black woman today said, look, he don't know what's going on. He just gets his speech right. Has to put notes in front of him. The back office are telling him what to say. Kemi, not good enough. And I see you, says Sandra. Sandra Whitlam must be in. Hi there. Not be long before limiting petrol as a lot have run out. People are panic buying. Now, do you know, Sandra, we talked about this the other night. It's coming round to that bewitching hour, so I'll get on to what we're going to talk about. We talked about this the other night, where what was going to be the first thing that we're going to start panic buying, and that the newspapers were going to report that they were panic buying. Obvs, it's petrol. And I will say this to you. What's going on with the forecourts within a day or two of the bombing of the Supreme Leader, up in the price of petrol? Because that petrol on the forecourt was bought at a previous price. They're profiteering. The oil companies are profiteering. They don't give a flying. They're the ones complaining that the Strait of Hormuz is log jammed and they can't get the 20% of the world's oil through there on a daily basis. So I get it, Sandra. I do get it. It was either going to be bog rolls or petrol. I'm so glad they went for petrol. But if they want us in 15-minute cities, they want us not to have use of the car or the van or the motorbike or the electric vehicles, which nobody's buying, in my view, because the insurance is far too high. And I see you say, Sandra, I think my car runs on fresh air mostly. Me too. Sandra says, and say you can only have 20 or 30 pounds worth of petrol. It's sorry, I've just had a text from kind of private life that I need to process very quickly. So yeah, it's always going to be panic buying, and then tomorrow there's going to be more panic buying, and the newspapers are going to go front pages and say, oh, there's panic buying, because that's the message. That is the message. They want you just to shut the up and just do as you're told. So Mike 71, the Hugh Bovril, Aidan Wellsmith, and Lauren Taylor, follow the money always. My late husband always said that nobody gets that wealthy without being rotten. Now I think he had a very valid point. I'm with you, Lauren. I am absolutely with you. Maya Tusi, fellow YouTuber, seemingly has found some information, not necessarily corroborated with evidence, and sorry, I'm having to process that message again, just to make sure I've got it in, got it all squared off right. Okay. So Maya Tusi is now saying, and that I hope that he's well and not suicidal, and his channel is doing very, very well. He reckons that Starmer has amassed a £25 million fortune. Where did he find it on a money tree at the bottom of the garden? Or has he found a treasure trove buried in his garden somewhere? Or one of Lord Ali's pied-à-terre? I don't know how he's amassed 25 million. Wasn't Palantir by any chance? Because you see, the other thing that everybody's forgotten is Sir Keir went to America last January, when Mandy was still ruling the roost. And he went to visit Palantir, but it wasn't put on the books. It wasn't put in his diary. It wasn't put anywhere official. They just found out kind of off the books. So Sir Keir Starmer. Hang on, Geordie Nicholas. I bought 6 bottles of wine tonight. Just, you never know. What's that for? Is that full year's draft, Geordie Nicholas? 6 bottles. Bloody hell, I'm with you. Round to yours. Albert Metcalf says, Rothschilds. That's why he keeps hugging Sniffy, Des. What? To see if something comes between them. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Body of the Kirk. Thank you for all your comments. Something has happened to my YouTube setup. So normally I'd have it in a panel on the right-hand side, so it was bigger and I could see. And well, it's not now. So I want tonight to be very, very interactive, because I need to know that you understand and you get it and you get the context, thereby the knowledge and the understanding. Because tonight on the Theatre of the Mind live 296, a week come Sunday, live 300, I want to take you behind the headlines, because I'm sure you've worked this out, that the story isn't just Iran. It's the changing architecture of power. You see, the old world was Washington, London, and or a bit of Brussels running the table. The new world is Washington, OBS, Riyadh, and Beijing balancing the board. It's all about the energy, security, and industry. And when those 3 forces collide, the rest of the world doesn't lead, it just reacts. Doesn't even respond, it just reacts. Because if you listen to the news, daily news, you'd think the story of the moment is Iran. You would think the only story in town is Iran. Missiles. Alliances. Hello, is that Ursula von der Leyen, bitch. Yeah. Is that Riyadh? Yeah. Have you got a sore throat, Ursula? No. 6 kids. You would expect tensions in the Middle East to be dominating the news. But I'm going to give you my 47 years experience in radio, television, newspapers, magazines. I'm going to bring it all to bear tonight to cut through what a spokesperson once says was utter rollocks. See, the real story is the machinery underneath the world economy. Remember when I told you about digital ID? And I'm not sure whether you've watched the digital ID video that I posted earlier today, where you thought it's the Brit card, it's digital ID. We're going to tell him to shove it up where the sun don't shine. And then the government panicked and went, oh, is that a rent boy? But what they did was they just got on with sorting out the architecture, the digital ID infrastructure. So what's going on now is not about Iran. It's not. I mean, they've made a martyr of the old boy. He's in smithereens now. That's a town just near Tehran. So let me just be really candid with you. For the last 80 years, shall we say, the global system has run on one thing: the US dollar. Oil is traded in dollars. International trade settles in dollars. And the safest collateral in the global financial system is American government debt, which means something quite extraordinary. The world economy runs on dollars, but the only way the world gets those dollars is if the United States keeps going deeper and deeper into debt. That's the paradox economists call the Triffin dilemma. Google it. I'm going to ask you questions in a little while. But if you want to Google it, Triffin, as in not Triffid, Triffin dilemma. So the system, the whole world, Earth, the globe, Mother Gaia, whatever you want to call it, the whole system needs dollars to keep the global game moving. But supplying those dollars means expanding American debt. It's 37 trillion. The last I looked, 36 and a bit. So the system survives because the debt keeps growing. Now add energy to the picture. Can you understand why they're all belly aching about oil? Oil shipping lanes, oil pipelines, strategic choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. The whole world's going, oh, man. Because energy isn't just fuel. It's the bloodstream of the global economy. That's why Russia went to war with Ukraine, so they can get Crimea and get all the black gold and gas out of the Black Sea. Now, just as a little aside, when energy routes wobble, currencies wobble, markets wobble, alliances wobble. Can you see what's going on? And let me give you a bit of history. Can you remember the president of Yugoslavia, Slobodan Milosevic? No, that wasn't him. That was his brother. Slobodan Milosevic. Can you remember that when there was all this ethnic cleansing going on in Yugoslavia and you were thinking, ethnic cleansing? Bad buggers. It wasn't about ethnic cleansing. It was about who was going to build the pipeline from the Black Sea across Central Europe, through out into Romania, and then through Central Europe, the top of Yugoslavia, to Germany to power the German economy, which is tanking, by the way, because they haven't got the pipeline made. And then Slobodan said, so the Americans went over, you know, dark glasses, dark suits, in the middle of the night. Hello, Slobodan. Oh, hello, mate. How are you? Just a couple of Texans. And Slobodan's like, what do you want? Right. Well, we want to build a pipeline through northern Yugoslavia to go to Germany to power the European economy via Germany. And Slobodan says, lads, you're talking out your derriere, man. I run Yugoslavia. So, on your bike, if you can, hope you've got a saddle. And no, you're not building the pipeline. And the gentleman in the dark glasses said, right, Slobodan, it's not a problem, we'll be back. What do you mean you'll be back? Oh, we'll be back, we'll come back and see you. Next thing you know, he's been arrested, he's in jail. Not quite sure what for. And then, bugger me, he has a heart attack. Dies. So they can build a pipeline, but I'm not quite sure why they haven't built the pipeline, because Russia runs the Black Sea. Well, a little bit of Turkey, a little bit of Bulgaria, a little bit of Romania, a little bit of Ukraine. But Russia, it's got Crimea. That's where they're going to drill for the oil. So Germany's not getting the black gold out of the Black Sea to keep its economy going when it's tanking. 5,000 bridges Germany's going to have to demolish and rebuild because, well, somebody didn't use the right kind of concrete. So when you see tension in the Middle East, or arguments about currencies, or talk about new financial systems emerging, you're not just watching geopolitics. You're watching the pressure building inside the architecture of the global financial system itself. And the question quietly sitting underneath all of it is this: not whether the world will change, but how the next financial system emerges slowly or through crisis. So tonight, let's decode the real story behind the headlines. Don't bloody believe it's about Iran, you moron. Everybody, look, let me show you some shit in this newspaper. I mean, I'm so glad I've got toilet paper, because I absolutely categorically would not use the Sun newspaper to wipe my backside. So it's, well, he's no Churchill. He's no Churchill, says the Donald. And I thought, hang on a second. This is Israel bombing Iran. And yet it's all about Donald saying that Keir's no Churchill. He's no Churchill. Well, A, he's not bald, and B, he's not an alcoholic. But, and before you say anything, I have been to Churchill's birth home and love him and what he stood for and what we fought for. But there was, oh, it might have been in the mail. Hang on a second. Oh, no. Oh, Kate in Price. Honestly, I'd rather sniff dogs' asses than know more about that woman. Oh, did I say that out loud? I want to get this 2-page spread in the mail. US consulate in Dubai is rocked by missile strike. Gulf states could run out of anti-drone rockets this week. Ah, well. And I told you, this is not a war. It's not World War III. Please, 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 it's not a war. Conflict? Maybe, loosely. But the headline is energy bills could soar over £500. Hasn't the Daily Mail been watching the last 2.5 years? Energy bills could soar by over 500 quid. My energy bills per year is 2.5 grand. So by 500 quid, they can come and take it out of me backside. So, this is the headline. Can you see that? Oh, hang on. I better put my finger in. It says, who hates who? Oh, Jesus H. Who hates who in the Middle East? And then they've got a nice graphic, and then they've got a whole load of countries who hate each other. They all hate each other, man. So I want to decode all of this, and I'm pointing down there because that's where my papers are. Because once you see the machinery, the chaos suddenly makes a lot more sense. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'll get to your doodahs. Daily fail of being in the toilet for the past few years, says Matthew Whedon. Keeps the ink flowing, says I see you. And Stuart says I wouldn't waste my time or money on newspapers. Stephen Hall, goat herders, camel shaggers more like. But interesting days. Times to review Sykes-Picot. Really? And the old Bovril makes a very good point. They have all come together to hate Iran, though. Very clever, the old Bovril, because the Daily Mail didn't make that point, did they? Of course they didn't. So, question for you tonight. Before tonight, had you ever heard of the Triffin dilemma? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3, I'm about to Google it, Rev. So before tonight, had you ever heard of the Triffin dilemma? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3, Rev, I'm going to Google it. Let me have a look. If I can find my pointer. Stuart and Lewis and Penny Hen and Albert Medcalf and Les Griffiths. Paul West, the Old Bovril, Alison, Cuban Pete, Enigma Blue, Dolby, Legalista, Dreamer, Peter Rees-Jones. Hang on, Lauren, there's only 3 choices. Yeah, wrong. That must be a no. Catwoman Jones and William Commons, Phil Levan, Dave Warrington. God, everybody's saying no. And I don't blame you, because I hadn't until I'd done my research today. Dave Warrington, did you hear about the stupidness world? That's very funny. Phil Levan, dilemma. It's behind you. Joni Reid's grandfather was Jimmy Reid. Did he play footy, Cass? Neil Cunningham, I thought Triffin's dilemma was ruptured. Very good. Biggest oil reserves in Venezuela. Capture Maduro before Iran. That way, they still have a supply of oil. Ray Norton. Well, see, you're putting the dots together really well, Ray, because twofold. The reason why the Donald went into Venezuela, A, those election counting machines. That was the first one, because now he's got the proof that the presidential election was rigged by President Brown Trousers. And secondly, control the oil. Biggest oil reserves in the world. And he's already loosed off some of the oil. So China was buying its oil from Venezuela. China is now not buying its oil from Venezuela. So who's China buying its oil from? Iran. So now China's not buying its oil from Iran. But, so literally 100%. Before tonight, had you ever heard of the Triffin dilemma? No. Brilliant. Because it's gonna widen your eyes a little tonight. So let me tell you what's really interesting about the Iran story this week. It's not the bombs, not the missiles, not even the rhetoric. What matters is who moved and who didn't. So when the strikes began, Keir Starmer refused to let the United States use British bases to launch the attack. I'm operating from international law. Now, that's not a small thing. That's not what I've heard. For 80 years, Britain has been the forward operating platform for American power. From the Cold War to Iraq. Yet this time, London, the namby-pamby-pinko liberals in London, hesitated. And Washington noticed. Donald Trump didn't whisper his irritation privately. He said it out loud. He was very disappointed. Starmer's no Churchill. Oi, 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 dig, 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 dig. Now, we'll pause there, because when a president publicly scolds Britain, something deeper is shifting. The so-called special relationship is not breaking, but it is being tested in daylight. And that's only half the story, because at the same time, another quiet earthquake has been unfolding inside the British establishment. You know, the parasitical classes, the ones, the backsides are going 50p sixpence, 50p sixpence. For the first time in centuries, a senior royal figure, and seemingly there's worse to come out. I told you years ago, there are members of the royal family that will make Prince Andrew look like an amateur. Prince Andrew, or the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, linked to the Epstein investigation. Jeffrey Epstein, still alive, from the pictures I've seen, living in Tel Aviv. I wonder if that's what the Iranians were after. Is he still alive now? At almost the same time, another powerful figure in the political system, Peter Mandelson, Lord Mandelson to anybody else, was arrested and released on bail during an investigation into alleged information flows tied to that same network. Now, I'm not going to talk about the process of law. They've been arrested, released on bail. It's not sub judice yet. It's sub judice when they've been charged. But that is as far as I'm going to mention them in this particular moment. Now, whether those allegations ultimately hold up in court is a completely separate matter. But the symbolism matters, because for decades, the British state operated through two layers. The public layer, diplomacy, values, speeches, stiff upper lip or stiff upper something. And then the private layer that we never saw. Influence networks, soft power, trade envoys, back channels. Well, there would be with Starmer involved. And the polite phrase for this was always the same. The polite phrase? The special relationship. Five Eyes intelligence, all the swapping of intelligence data and details, and, well, the orange man loving the country. But what the Iran crisis may have revealed is something very uncomfortable. That relationship no longer works the way it used to. Washington acts. Europe issues statements. London tries to balance the two. 6-7, 6-7. And the old architecture of influence, the quiet channels between the elites, is now being dragged out into the open. So here's the real question. Not whether Britain and America remain allies. Of course they will. The question is this. Is Britain still inside the engine room of Western power? Or are they standing outside the door? Hello, it's me, hello, are you going to tell me what's going on? Oh, go on, mate, I've got a bag with me. Go on, we'll get on the train. Choo-choo. Are we, by virtue of the fact that Sir Keir Starmer's not in the engine room, me and you, are we outside the door waiting to be briefed? Because history rarely announces the end of an era. It simply leaves clues. A delayed phone call. A refused airbase. An embarrassed government. Oh, it's all right, as he was saying at PMQs today. Oh, it's all right. Oh, yeah, well, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're sending this and we're sending these kind of aircraft and that kind of boat and that kind of aircraft and that kind of boat, and we're fine. He's had to say that. So I'm going to ask you a question. The question is this. So the question is this. Has the special relationship between Britain and America actually weakened? 1 for yes, 2 for no. In your view, in your eyes, has the special relationship between Britain and America actually weakened? And once I get your results of that, I'm going to... Cool, blimey. So, Paulie Gallieri and Dolby and Davy Bevan and Les Griffiths. Great Britain is irrelevant on the world stage. I agree, Les. Stuart and Lionel, Enigma Blue. Sandra Whittam, Gribble. Phil Levan, Alison, Esby, I think that's supposed to be. Sorry, Alison. Les and Cuban Pete. The Jacobite. Got to see it in the body of the Kirk, the Jacobite. Napoleon blown apart, without doubt. Albert Medcalf, everybody saying yes, 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 yes. It has weakened it. It's a couple, Kaz and Lewis, and I think one other says no. Enver says special relationship hasn't been there since the early 60s. Profumo. So, and thank you to Super Ted and Tom Harney's, all in the body of the Kirk and all saying yes. Oh, Comic Mania makes a very good point. Very, very prescient. Very, very good. It'll be all right once Starmer goes, and he's not for long for this political process. So Trump doesn't take Starmer seriously. I know, Lewis. Dreamer and Nathan Diamond and Elliot all saying, yeah. Phil Levan, what about Reagan and Thatcher? She had the hots for Reagan, didn't she, Thatcher? I mean, she got a couple of kids, so she definitely did it twice. Napoleon blown apart. What does England have that America wants? Not much in 2026. Oh, no truer word said in jest, Napoleon blown apart. Les Griffith says the world is about to change. And Lionel says, not since the Queen died. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question. This is an establishment. That was a power question. This is the establishment question. With the arrests of figures connected to the Epstein investigation, do you think elite networks of power are finally being exposed? I'm not going to answer it for you, but I think if you've seen Killary and Husband being interrogated, you might have a more solid answer. With the arrest of figures connected to the Epstein investigation, do you think elite networks of power are finally being exposed? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for not sure. Oh, mixed. Dolby and Albert Metcalf say no. Phil Levan, Thatcher had bigger bollocks than Starmer. Stephen Hall and Stuart and Davy Bevan. Alison says no, but Kaz, I see you says no. Where's that one? Where's the Billy one? Comment gone. Ike was always right. Billy was shaking like... I know he was. He's I can't remember what the shakes would be. I'm not quite sure it was withdrawal from alcohol at 80-year-old, but he's denied having anything wrong with him. I mean, bloody hell. Can you imagine taking a sip of water? Boom, boom. Third time lucky, Billy. Oh, just made it. I would say 85% is 1 yes. So the question was, with the arrests of figures connected to the Epstein investigation, do you think elite networks of power are finally being exposed? 85% are saying yes, other 15% But Stupidness World actually makes a very good point. But only the has-beens. Well, when you've got the chief exec officer of the World Economic Forum resigning because of his links to Epstein, Napoleon Blown Apart says 1.5 because not fully. But Penny Hen is saying yes, as is Paul West and Cuban Pete. Doxy and Nathan Diamond are saying no. I think I would say categorically there's a bit of cynicism. Now, we like cynical old tarts because I am a fully paid up member. But Comic Mania says yes, slowly. Enigma Blue and Gary Shabot are all saying yes, as well as Elliot and Andrew James and Matt Whedon. Aidan Wellsmith says the process has started. I think if the Clintons are found guilty of anything, that's going to rock everything. Oh, by the way, between me and you, now my sources are impeccable as always, and as a citizen journalist, I can't name me sources, but I will say this: Barack Obama has got 9 criminal lawyers hired, not reputational lawyers, not Bathhouse Barry and Big Mike lawyers, criminal lawyers. So I think Bathhouse Barry's backside, 50p sixpence, 50p sixpence, because why would he retain 9 criminal lawyers? Criminal. Oh, I say. You won't read that in the bloody morning papers tomorrow. David Icke was right. They will never be exposed, says Dolby. Has anyone seen Jim Carrey? Enigma Blue, I was going to talk about that tonight. They will find a new place to congregate, probably on the dark web somewhere, the old Bovril. Follow the ever increasing retirements and resignations. Even Jim Carrey doesn't see Jim Carrey anymore. Stupidness world, I know. Lauren Taylor says, as I was saying earlier, and I think Lauren's been more erudite than me, he was grinning, that's William Jefferson, grinning like a Cheshire cat when shown those photos. He was remembering something foul. Yeah, definitely. You could tell by the smirk, really. Stephen Hall, they buy another island. What with Beardy? So there was the power question, the establishment question. Now, can I ask you a strategic question? One more. If Washington now acts first and informs allies down the line, where does that leave Britain in the world order? 1, we're still on the top table. 2, we're outside the door. 3, we never got a chance to leave home. So if Washington now acts first and informs allies later, where does that leave Britain in the world order? 1, top table. 2, outside the room. 3, we may as well just have walked ourselves back home. Oh, it's all 2s and 3s. Aidan Wellsmith, Charles best mates with PDF Savile. I can say pedo Savile because he was. It was found by an inquiry by, was it Dame Janet Smith, that Savile had raped an 8-year-old girl on BBC property. That came out from her inquiry. And the only thing the BBC did about it? Tony Blackburn kissed a 16-year-old once in the 60s. And yet Savile raped an 8-year-old girl on BBC property and nothing was done about it? So Dolby and Phil Levan and Aidan Wellsmith and Davy Bevan. Oh, Davy Bevan's a 3. We're probably walking back home. We haven't even got any balls. Lionel, Stewart, Kaz, Albert Metcalf, Napoleon Bonaparte. Jim Carrey is in recovery from surgery that made him look like poopy pants for 4 years. Now he's changing back. Have they managed to remove the mask? Can you imagine? Scooby-Doo, pull the mask off. Bloody hell, it's Jim Carrey. Alison and Tom Harney's and Catwoman Jones and William Commons. The All Bovril, 2 and 3. Carl Wartby says 3, but everybody is kind of saying 2. Stupidness World, 9. Allowed in the room to clean up after. Back of the queue, really, says Matthew Wielden. Even Five Eyes, they're not going to trust our intelligence. Not just Charles, but Philip too. I'd heard that, Les, but there was nothing. I didn't think that Philip was always supposed to be the naked man in the Profumo affair. There was a naked man that walked around with nought on except a mask and carrying drinks for everybody else while they were shagging. And they reckoned that was Philip. So Philip was there, but couldn't pin anything on him. Can you imagine? Pin the donkey. Oi, oi, oi. Hang on, what's Phil Levan said? Because somebody's laughing. This country's in the toilet with Keir at the bottom. Enigma Blue! I see what you did there. Yeah. Darwin, very funny though. The Met want to widen the investigation into Al-Fayed, now looking at trafficking for sexual purposes, so they can go after enablers and facilitators. Enver, they're not going after the enablers and facilitators. They're going after the money. So all the two barristers that went after Fayed and got the victims got paid out millions. It's a bit like the post office scandal. They were awarded 47 million quid, but the lawyers and the barristers took 32 million of it. So they all got a few 100,000 apiece. The lawyers got the lot. Got a lot, rather. I think when Starmer goes, we will have a special relationship with America again. I think Trump just hates Starmer like the rest of us, says Phil the Van. I'm with you, Phil. Definitely with you. So it's... we're kind of not at the top table. We're outside the room. At least we haven't been told to take our ball home. So the three quiet engines under all of the noise at the moment. One, bases. That's Diego Garcia, Access. We've had Cyprus bombed, and Free Gear Kia hasn't really done anything about it. He's not a leader, is he? I mean, I don't know whether you feel the same way, but Churchill wouldn't have stood for that, even when he was absolutely shitted. He wouldn't have stood for that. He would have sat down for it, probably. But then there's the oil. So the three quiet engines under all of this noise. One, the basis, Diego Garcia. No wonder Trump was a bit upset, because he knew what he was going to do. And then Starmer's going, well, the Chinese Communist Party have told me to sell them the Diego Garcia base and the Chagos Islands. And everybody just looked at it going, we're now flogging off Gibraltar. How does that work? So there's the barrels of oil, the Straits of Hormuz, Chinese energy exposure, to put it mildly and politely. And then third, and the most important, Israel. The dog that many pundits pretend isn't in the room. So America bombs Iran, kills the supreme leader. Israel go, we're in. Poof, loads of missiles. Loads of missiles come back over to Tel Aviv. And I can tell you that by law in Israel, every new property, and this has been going on for a few decades, every new property built has to have an emergency room, a bomb room, a war room, however you want to describe it. Because I've stayed in one. And basically, it's got its own air conditioning unit. It's just a safe room for you to get in case. And these are in flats. So nobody talks about that, the safety rooms, where all the tech operators in Silicon Valley are going, oh yes, I'll have a new small pied-à-terre in Hawaii. And by the way, build a golf safety room. Why? It's not happening in Hawaii in North America. So let's lift it. Here's behind the veil. Let's lift the veil. So here's the behind the veil picture. So what's moving? Why? And what you are not being told plainly. So what's really sitting behind this story? Diego Garcia and the Chagos Islands are leverage, not geography. If America can't reliably assume access to a UK-controlled infrastructure, including Diego Garcia on the Chagos Islands, it just changes planning, timelines, signalling. That's why a refusal, even temporary, matters. On the Chagos ends up a Chinese base? Well, the most credible analysis, because they don't put stuff like this out in the public domain. You can't go and find it. Now, some people would call China taking Diego Garcia itself baseless, because the United States and United Kingdom presence and treaty structure make that scenario extremely hard. Starmer loves it extremely hard. But once we're paying the Chagosians to look after the Chagos Islands, who's to say they can't go for a Chinese takeaway? But above all that, there has been political concern that a sovereignty deal might not prevent the Chinese activity elsewhere in the archipelago. Not Diego Garcia, but another of the islands in the Chagosian Islands. So, decode all of that. Diego Garcia isn't an island, it's a permission slip. And permission slips are power. So let's take it from the Chinese perspective, because they're awfully quiet. China's nightmare isn't Iran. It's the Strait of Hormuz. That's why the Donald, the orange man, got all of the military might into the Strait of Hormuz. It's 24 miles wide. That's why he got everybody in there. So the conflict isn't only about Iran's capabilities, and they haven't got any. And also, remember this. Brown trousers, President Joe Biden, he paid $6 billion for the release of a hostage. What the bloody hell did Iran do with $6 billion? Israel's now finding out. So this conflict isn't about Iran's capabilities. It's about whether shipping lanes stay open, insured, and affordable. The Strait of Hormuz is routinely described as carrying about 20% of global seaborne oil and a big chunk of liquid nitrogen gas, LNG. When it gets jittery, the world gets poorer. And in the current flare-up, reporting describes Iran's exports being badly disrupted and maritime traffic dropping sharply, with insurance and shipping costs spiking. Now, China has publicly called for protection of vessels and de-escalation, because they haven't got the oil from Venezuela. They can only rely on Iran. I mean, Libya's gone, Cuba's gone, Venezuela's gone. They've only got Iran. And if Iran goes offline, that's China buggered. Back to the Ukrainian Red Boys. Because Beijing is watching a vital artery wobble. So if you want the real reason everybody suddenly sounds very concerned about stability, follow the tankers, not the speeches. 24 miles wide. Latest traffic analysis is saying that there's a lot of shipping not going through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I don't know whether you're aware of Ursula von der Leyen bitch calling the Saudis and whether that's the tell. So the EU reaching out to the Saudi leadership isn't vibes. I would suggest it's more like a triage. Von der Leyen bitch publicly said she spoke to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman about de-escalation and regional stability, framing Saudi Arabia as a strategic partner and referencing EU GCC ties. Can I just say something honestly here? All these European leaders are nothing. As I've just asked you, and you most of the parishioners agreed that we're not at the top table anymore. We're not even in the same room as the decision makers. And she's kind of ringing up the Saudis, going, hello, it's Ursula. How you doing, mate? Hello, Ursula. You're sounding awfully hoarse. Because she wants to be seen. She's not even been elected. Nobody voted for that woman. She wants to be seen as on the top table. And when she went across to see the Donald in the White House, he just looked at her with contempt, in my view. So when Europe's first instinct is to call Riyadh, it tells you who Europe thinks can actually move the room. Donald Trump. And she's hitching her horse to the wrong wagon. And look, It's the story that nobody's talking about. Not a single solitary mention in the newspapers, and that's why it's just noise. No one is mentioning Israel. And yes, Israel is central, not optional. Some commentary tries to speak as if this is a US-Iran episode, with Europe frowning from the sidelines. I think Ursula von der Leyen is just tutting, as is Starmer. He's just a tutter. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze. But anybody that has any knowledge of what is going on knows that the power behind everything is Israel. And remember, Joe Biden gave Bibi Netanyahu $110 billion of American taxpayers' money. What did they get back for $110 billion? Multiple authoritative briefings and reporting explicitly frame this as a US-Israel strike on Iran. But our newspapers, it's Trump. All the reporting and reportage that I've seen, Trump. So when Israel's role isn't mentioned, that's not neutrality. It's narrative management. So why might people avoid saying Israel out loud? Because it instantly reframes the story. Regional security versus global non-proliferation, retaliation ladders, proxy theatre. Because it triggers domestic political landmines in the UK and Europe. There's Starmer. Wife Jewish, kids Jewish. He can't be seen to be anti-Semitic, can he? And also it complicates the special relationship. You can't talk UK-US alignment without admitting the third corner of the triangle, the drama triangle. So if Israel's absent from a take, the take is incomplete. Like reviewing Hamlet but skipping the prince. And that's why Iran bombed Tel Aviv. So tonight, ignore the fireworks for a second and watch the wiring behind the wall. Because what's being exposed here isn't just a conflict with Iran. It's a power map changing shape in real time. So what's the most revealing detail? Bases. When the strikes began, Britain wasn't leading. Britain was being informed, and Yvette Cooper actually came out and said, no, we didn't know what was going on. We only found out afterwards. And the argument that's circulating is that London resisted US access to UK-controlled basing. Mentioning Diego Garcia again. And that matters because Diego Garcia isn't a dot on a map. It's a hinge, a lever, Mary hinge, a permission slip for American reach. That'd be a reach around. And once you understand that, you see the second engine, barrels of oil. So this conflict sits on the Strait of Hormuz, as I keep telling you this evening, like a match over petrol. That waterway moves roughly a fifth of global seaborne oil. And when it tightens, prices jump. Everyone's very concerned about stability. And China know that. And the other thing is, you know the way the newspapers are talking. World War III, World War III, we're all going to die. It's all going to go boom. Well, that was on Saturday. It's now Wednesday. And nothing's really happening. Because they would report it. They'd show us clip after clip after clip on the evening news, on the late night news, on the early morning news, and they're not doing that. So just ask yourself why. It's not World War III. Beijing's calling for vessels to be protected for de-escalation. China always wants stability. Not because it suddenly fell in love with international law, but because Energy disruption is economic pain for China, and economic pain becomes political risk. And then you see the third engine, Riyadh. The EU response wasn't to lead militarily, it was to pick up the phone to Saudi Arabia. Ursula von der Leyen publicly framed the Saudis as a strategic partner to help de-escalate and safeguard regional stability. There was Emmanuel Macron and his husband saying, oh, well, we're looking at our nuclear arsenal. Arse being the operative. We're looking at our nuclear arsenal. And I turned around and thought, what a tosser. It must be le tosser, because it's French. So all of this is not symbolism. It's Europe admitting who it thinks can influence outcomes. Now, this story isn't a story happening in a vacuum. Briefings describe this as US, Israel strikes on Iran, not US, GB or UK or Europe. No, US, Israel strikes on Iran. And I have friends in Israel at the moment who are obviously very worried. I told you the story on Monday night's live about a friend who was here and literally got a phone call from home. You better get over here because they're going to shut the airports and you might not get back to Israel for months. So when analysis avoids the word Israel, it's not caution, it's distortion. And once you put Israel back in the frame, everything makes more sense. Why the escalation risk is higher, why proxy dynamics matter, why leaders talk about stability like it's oxygen. So the real decode tonight isn't, are we heading for World War III? The better question is, are we watching the old alliance system, US, UK, Europe, become more transactional, more conditional, more exposed? Because history doesn't always end with a bang. Sometimes it ends with a delayed phone call, a denied runway, and a sudden realization that the room has been rearranged while you were still looking at the chandelier. Right, getting to that. So I'm going to ask you a question. Oh, sorry. The last couple of lives, I've been so busy, I haven't been able to have a drink. Oi, oi, oi. And my hibiscus goes cold quickly. So again, I'm going to ask you a question. Should Britain ever refuse America use of UK bases? 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for don't know, need more research. Should Britain ever refuse America use of UK bases? Let's have a look. Reg D. Amalia says, don't know what that means. Matthew Whedon and Napoleon blown apart. And Dolby says, I'm not sure. Albert Medcalf, Cuban Pete, Alison, Stewart, no. Sandra Whittam, yes. Les Griffiths, yes. Interesting. Dolby's unsure. Comic Mania, yes. Lewis says, I like this. It's like a pub quiz. Bless you. Nathan Diamond says no. Davy Bevan and Stupidness World. Oh, sorry, Davy Bevan says yes. Nathan Diamond's Stupidness World, I See You, Gribbo are all saying no. So I think it's 90-10. I think it's 90% no, 10% yes. The question was, should Britain ever refuse America use of UK bases? And most said no, but 10% said yes. So I'm going to ask you a specific question with specific answers now. So 1, the answer is fear of backlash. 2, political convenience. And 3, deliberate narrative control. So you have 3 choices, multiple choice, 1, 2, 3. 1, fear of backlash. 2, political convenience. And 3, it's deliberate narrative control. But the question is this: why do you think so many commentators, press, newspapers, telly, journos, avoid saying Israel in this story? 1, fear of backlash. 2, political convenience. 3, it's deliberate narrative control. Oh, interesting. Enigma Blue says weak leader Starmer, get rid. Reg D, Phil Levan, Steph Lub, Gribbo. No, Gribbo says 3. Narrative control. The All Bovril, Albert Metcalf, all saying fear of backlash, which is a very valid point. It's interesting. It's either 3's, narrative control, or fear of backlash. And it's narrative control for most people. Fatal Racing Driver, Enver, Comic Mania, and Catwoman Jones. Andrew James is hedging his bets. Lauren Taylor, Liga Lister, Carl Warby, Gary Shabot saying it's narrative control. Deliberate narrative control. Interesting. So let's have a look at China's real stake. And we're going to go a little deeper before we wind up at 9 o'clock. And don't forget, please smash the likes. We've got 130 odd people watching, so it would be nice to get it over 100 if we could, if you feel so inclined. So China's real stake in all of this. What's the real driver here? Stopping Iran or keeping oil and shipping lanes stable? You see, the fascinating piece that sits just underneath everything we've discussed so far, it's not Iran, it's not Israel, it's not even the special relationship. It's the new triangle forming quietly in the background. I hinted at this close to the beginning. Washington, Riyadh, Beijing. And you see, once you see that triangle, the whole board makes more sense. It's only because we're not allowed to see what the game is, whether it is 5D chess or whether it's just a chess game itself. But now we know what the game is. We can see the board. It's beginning to make more sense. So the fascinating layer behind this story, yes, of course, it's money. It's oil, money, power. But Saudi Arabia is becoming the hinge of the global system. And as I say, since the Second World War, in fact, after the First World War, I was right first time, for 80 years, the Middle East order was really simple. America guaranteed Gulf security. Saudi Arabia sold oil in dollars. Now, that arrangement, the Petro-dollar system, completely anchored the global economy. But over the last 5 years, something subtle has changed. I don't believe it's necessarily where we've come from. It's actually direction of travel. It's where we're going to. That's what matters now. So Saudi Arabia has started balancing 3 powers at once: the United States, security; China, energy markets; and Russia. They've been keeping their heads down because it's about oil price coordination through OPEC. OPEC, oil-producing exporting countries. So this means Riyadh now sits in a position it has never held before. It's not just a supplier anymore, it's a geopolitical broker. So when Ursula von der Leyen calls Saudi Arabia during a crisis, that's a signal. Europe knows the Saudis can talk to everyone, including the girls on the perfume counter at Harrods. Oh, what are you saying, Adrian? I'll leave you to do your own research. It was in the news of the world. I'll have that bottle, and oh, that smells nice, and I'll have that. And can you have it delivered to my room? Oh, certainly, sir. So they turn up, perfume in hand. Happy finish for everybody. So Washington, Beijing, Moscow, Tehran. That's extraordinary leverage that the Saudis can just contact all the major power players around the world. But here's what they're not saying. China is quietly replacing Europe as the Gulf's main customer. Sorry, there's something going on with my eyes. And here's the second tectonic plate. China now buys more Middle Eastern oil than Europe does. And Beijing, as the Chinese always do, including having loads of spies in London and in the Ozempic Palace, and now they've found another 3, Beijing has been quietly building influence. They've been brokering the Iran-Saudi rapprochement in 2023, expanding Belt and Road infrastructure, and settling some energy trades outside of the dollar. Now remember BRICS, Russia, India, China, Saudi, and South Africa. What was the B? BRICS has been trading oil outside of the dollar. So when instability hits Iran or Hormuz, China has a direct interest, not ideological, industrial. Factories run on oil, and China's factories run the global supply chain. So now Washington's strategy is shifting from control to disruption. During the Cold War, the war on terror, the US goal was really simple: control the region. Told you before, shock and awe. They went into Iraq, bombed the bejesus out of Iraq, but they didn't bomb the northern oil fields in Iraq. That's where they went in and secured them first. But now the strategy is different. It's about denying strategic advantage to rivals. Cut off the oil from Venezuela, cut off anybody's access to the oil reserves with Venezuela. And if Iran exports are constrained, Russia loses leverage. China's supply chain becomes a bit nervous, and energy markets tighten. That gives Washington strategic pressure points. So now we come to the word that I mentioned a little earlier, Israel. Israel's strategic doctrine has always been prevent regional rivals from reaching nuclear capability. And Iran sits right at the heart of that doctrine. Israeli strategy often pushes toward preemption or containment, but Israel also now sits inside a new diplomatic architecture, the Abraham Accords network. Now that links Israel to the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and potentially Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which means something quite remarkable is happening. Old enemies are becoming quiet partners against Iran. So when you zoom out, you see a new structure emerging. Washington, military power. Riyadh, energy power. Beijing, industrial power. And everything else, Europe included, is adjusting to that geometry. Now, the hidden tension is this. Europe still thinks in terms of rules and diplomacy, but the other three poles think in terms of power and leverage. That's why Europe issues statements while the others move assets. Almost nobody in the media is talking about yet. It involves the BRICS expansion, Saudi oil trading currencies, and why Washington may actually want energy volatility right now. So once you see that, the Iran crisis starts to look less like a war and more like a move on the global chessboard. Let's look at the real monetary earthquake in 1971. In August 71, Richard Nixon ended the convertibility of the US dollar into gold because he didn't have enough gold to match the amount of dollars they were printing. Effectively, it collapsed the Bretton Woods system, and before that moment, other countries could exchange dollars for gold. The dollar was effectively gold-backed, and after that moment with Tricky Dicky, the dollar became fiat currency, money backed by state authority rather than a commodity. That decision created the modern global financial system that we live in today. So we've had that for, cool blimey, 50 odd years. Nearly 60 years. And here is where the petrodollar enters the story. Now remember, in all the information that I've given you so far, I've not mentioned it's going to be World War III, it's going to be World War III. That's for the newspapers and the liars and the agenda setters, the crooked, the crooks, the liars. Because that's what they're doing, they're just keeping you dumb. So the petrodollar system, and this is really, really, really important for you to grasp. I hope you're getting it so far, because this explains everything that's going on. It's the petrodollar system. In the early 70s, the United States struck agreements with major oil producers, particularly Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. So the essential structure was simple. Oil would be priced primarily in US dollars. Oil exporters would reinvest surplus dollars in Western financial markets, the banks. So this phenomenon became known as petrodollar recycling. Why does this matter? Because every country needing oil needed dollars, which meant global demand for the dollar remained very strong. US debt could be financed internationally, and the dollar became the world's reserve currency. That system still underpins the global economy today, March the 4th, 2026. There is another weird question, though. It's the $37 trillion question. So the United States currently carries extremely high sovereign debt, somewhere between 36 and 37 trillion. And that's sustainable largely because the dollar is the global reserve currency. International trade, especially energy, is heavily dollar dominated. So if that structure changed dramatically, the financial system would feel it. Which is why the BRICS, Russia, India, China, South Africa, currency discussions, energy trading in non-dollar currencies, and sanctions and payment systems all attract intense attention. But the shift is slow and contested, not sudden. And can you remember a year ago when the Donald got into power and he said to Elon Musk, right, Elon, off you go, sort all it out, sort the corruption out, and let's have a look at Fort Knox. So remember, they wouldn't let anybody see the gold in Fort Knox. And then they borrowed some gold from us here in our banks to put in Fort Knox. I mean, I'm not talking out of school, but there's been decades of rumours about the US gold reserves. The official figure is roughly 8,000 tonnes of physical gold, mostly stored in facilities including Fort Knox. But speculation about missing gold circulates frequently. Look at a year ago. Nobody saw it, no pictures. They weren't allowed into Fort Knox. They were allowed to borrow the gold from we Brits. Economists and historians generally say there's no credible evidence the gold is gone. So on the one hand, well, we're experts, take our word for it. And I don't. And I want to see the pictures. Not the pictures of the gold, pictures of 8,000 tonnes in one place. The issue persists because gold reserves play a psychological role in confidence in the financial system. So rumours just flare up whenever trust in institutions drop. So the real strategic battle today isn't Rothschilds versus nations. It's a monetary architecture struggle between the dollar system, emerging alternatives. But even China still holds high amounts of dollar assets, which shows the system is evolving rather than collapsing. So the modern global order rests on three pillars: energy markets, military security, and financial settlement systems. And all of those are going to change with the blockchain and crypto and central bank digital currencies. So when those energy markets, military security, and financial settlement systems all align, a power dominates. And right now, the United States of America still sits at the intersection of the world's most powerful military, the world's reserve currency, and global financial infrastructure. And the Donald is wanting to make America the epicenter of cryptocurrencies. But rivals are slowly trying to build parallel systems. See, that's the long game. So what you're sensing at the moment is real, but the mechanism is simpler. It isn't a secret cabal controlling the system. It's a self-reinforcing network of power. Energy into dollars, into global finance, into military protection, into energy again. It's a continual loop. But break one part of that loop and the whole architecture starts to wobble. That's why energy, shipping lanes, and currencies keep appearing in the same geopolitical stories. And the real question that analysts are now asking isn't, will the dollar collapse? Oh, it's something more subtle than that. What replaces the dollar if it ever weakens? Because history shows one rule: every single global reserve currency eventually loses its position. Spain's silver, the Dutch guilder, the British pound, and one day, inevitably, the dollar. But transitions between systems tend to take decades, not news cycles. And the news cycle at the moment is about 2 hours. So the hidden mechanism that actually determines which currency becomes the world reserve currency, it's not gold, it's not oil. It's something most commentators never, ever, ever mention. And this was where I needed to get to allay your fears and your anxiety about World War III and what's going on. Because once you see this, the entire geopolitical chessboard becomes much, much, much clearer. So pull the chair a little closer. because the deep mechanism isn't as flashy as Bitcoin or any of the other things that we've talked about this evening. And it isn't as dramatic as oil. It's quieter, almost boring. Yet it decides which currency rules the world. The answer? Trust infrastructure. So it's not gold, it's not oil, it's not even the blockchain. Trust. And specifically, who controls the systems that the world trusts to store wealth, enforce contracts, and more importantly, settle disputes? So once you see that, reserve currency suddenly makes sense. So the real engine behind reserve currencies is simply this. Every dominant currency in history sat on top of three foundations. One, military reach. Someone must secure trade routes. The Spanish Empire protected silver fleets. The British Navy protected global shipping lanes. The United States Navy protects the sea lanes today. Currencies don't dominate without force, or even force projection behind them. And then there's the financial markets, deep enough to absorb global capital. Now, this is the part that most people miss. The world needs somewhere safe and liquid to park trillions of dollars. So right now, the only market large enough is the US Treasury bonds. They are massive, liquid, globally traded, legally protected. And that's why countries hold dollars. Not because they love America, because there is no other market big enough. And as Starmer has said, standing at the dispatch box, international law, international law, international law. Governments and wealthy around the world need legal stability. This is the real secret. The United States provides enforceable contracts, relatively transparent courts, and predictable property rights, which is why 2008 was a real knee wobbler. Investors trust that if they buy an American asset, the rules won't suddenly change overnight. That legal framework is the invisible pillar of the dollar system. So is this a death match between America and China? Well, I'm going to explain why China cannot replace the dollar yet. China has the economy. China has the manufacturing. China even has the currency ambitions. But China lacks the key ingredient: convertibility and legal transparency. Capital controls remain tight. Foreign investors do not fully trust Chinese courts. And until that changes, the yen cannot truly replace the dollar. So where does cryptocurrency fit in all of this? If you watch the lives regularly, you know that I find the blockchain fascinating. But it's not replacing sovereign currencies anytime soon. What it is doing is introducing a new concept: trust without institutions. So instead of trusting governments, banks, courts, you trust mathematics and distributed consensus. That is revolutionary. But for a global reserve system, states still matter. Energy, trade, war, diplomacy, those are still run by governments. And the real change underway is more subtle than a crypto takeover. we're moving toward a multi-layered monetary world. Layer 1, the dollar system still dominates global trade and finance. Layer 2, regional trade in local currencies grows slowly. Layer 3, digital settlement technologies emerge, XRP, including blockchain-based systems, Ripple, Bitcoin. Think of it less as a replacement and more as parallel plumbing being built alongside the old pipes. So why does the Saudi piece matter so much? I mean, this circles us back to the triangle I discussed earlier: Washington, Riyadh, Beijing. Saudi Arabia controls a huge portion of the world's swing oil supply. If Riyadh ever decided to price large amounts of oil in another currency, that would send shockwaves through the dollar system. But the Saudis are cautious. They benefit enormously from the current system. So what are they doing instead of hedging? Security ties with the US? Economic ties with China? Oil coordination with Russia? That balancing act is a real geopolitical dance. So one last thought. When you hear phrases like petrodollar collapse, BRICS currency, crypto revolution, do you imagine sudden earthquakes? But monetary history is more like continental drift, slow, relentless. The irresistible force, and only obvious once the map has already changed. And there's actually one more layer beneath even this. It's the reason the United States seems to run enormous deficits without collapsing. Most people assume the answer is the dollar, but the deeper answer is something else entirely. It's about who issues the safest collateral in the world. And once you understand this mechanism, the entire global financial machine suddenly clicks into place. So now I'm going to step into the engine room of the global financial machine. And the reason why I'm parking this on this live is you can come back to this at any point you wish. And you'll get the game when they're talking what seems like a completely different game. Remember, it's about distraction. They don't want you working out what they're up to until they've sorted it out. It's not about the slogans. It's not about the headlines. It's the plumbing. Remember with digital ID, I told you it was about the infrastructure. It didn't matter what happened, whether the brick card survived or not. It's about the infrastructure. This is not slogans, headlines. The engine room of the global financial machine, the plumbing. So the concept is that economists talk about quietly, but which almost nobody explains clearly. It's two words: safe collateral. And once you see it, the puzzle of why the United States can run enormous deficits suddenly makes sense. So the hidden machine is safe collateral. The modern financial system, all of it, the whole game. It's rigged, but it's the whole game. It runs on safe collateral. So every day, banks, hedge funds, insurers, and central banks borrow and lend trillions and trillions and trillions through short-term markets like repurchase agreements, repos. In a repo transaction, one institution borrows money and pledges a safe asset as collateral. And you'll have done the same, but just on a smaller scale with the bank. So the lender says, fine, I'll give you the cash because I trust the asset that you're pledging. So the entire system depends on one question. What asset does everyone trust enough to accept as collateral? So right now, the answer is overwhelmingly US Treasury bonds. And this is why US Treasury bonds are so powerful. They have three unique characteristics. Scale. There are tens of trillions of dollars of them. It's huge. Liquidity. They can be bought and sold instantly. And three, perceived safety. Markets believe the US government will repay them. And because of this, treasuries are the backbone collateral of global finance. Used everywhere. Interbank lending, derivatives markets, central bank reserves, repo markets. Just think of US Treasury bonds as the lubricating oil of the financial system. So why does this allow huge US debt? Can you see what I'm explaining to you? It's got nothing to do with Iran. It's got nothing to do with the oil in Iran. It's got everything to do with the Donald. And he's manipulating the whole system. So it'll be blockchain and crypto eventually that runs the game. So here's the paradox. Normally, massive government borrowing weakens a currency, like Labour. Borrow, 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 borrow. Look at Gordon Brown. Borrow, 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 borrow. Nearly bankrupt the bloody country. But with America, something strange happens. The more treasuries exist, the more collateral the global system has to operate with. Banks need safe collateral. Investors need safe assets. Central bank need reserve assets. So global demand for these treasuries stays extremely high, which means the United States can borrow at relatively low interest rates. It's a complete feedback loop. Debt creates the collateral the world needs. Now, the 2008 financial crisis, after that, something fascinating happened. A lot of assets that had been considered safe suddenly weren't. Mortgage securities collapsed. European sovereign bonds became unstable. So the system rushed towards the one asset still trusted: US Treasuries. Economists even started talking about a global shortage of safe assets, which ironically strengthened the dollar system even more. Now, countries like China and Russia understand this structure. They're not telling you, the Chinese and the Russians and the Americans, or even the Brits in the Central Mile, the Square Mile in London. They're not telling you anything about this. Because sometimes it's a bit like it just hits you and it's overwhelm and overload. And I've tried to make this as simple as possible. Because the current climate is not about Iran. It's about the infrastructure underneath all the money markets. And I've told you before, very simply, the bank's job, they only have one job: to make money from nothing. And with safe collateral, banks can make money from nothing. China and Russia understand the structure, and they know that as long as treasuries remain the world's preferred collateral, the US financial system remains dominant. So the quiet strategic question, the real geopolitical question, isn't will the dollar collapse? It's this: who will issue the world's next safe collateral? It's that simple. It's going to be whispered quietly amongst all of the clearing houses and banks and institutions worldwide. It's not going to be, will the dollar collapse? Of course it won't. The real question is, who will issue the world's next safe collateral? And for a rival system to emerge, it would need a huge sovereign bond market, open capital flows, deep financial infrastructure, legal trust from global investors. That is an extraordinarily high bar. So the United States isn't powerful just because of the dollar. It's powerful because the entire global financial system runs on American government debt as its foundation. The world needs that collateral to keep the financial machine moving. So paradoxically, America's debt is not only a burden, it's also a strategic asset. I mean, it's the old question. The world is hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt. Who to? Uranus? So I'll clean it up even more for you. The global financial system runs on collateral, assets everybody trusts. And the asset the entire world uses as its foundation is US Treasury debt, which means the world's most powerful financial instrument isn't gold, it isn't oil, it's American government bonds. So the debt itself is the system. So let me introduce the man whose idea sits behind all of this, the whole system. It's a guy called Robert Triffin. He spotted something in the 60s that has haunted the global financial system ever since. It's called, in plain English, the Triffin dilemma. So here's the paradox. For the world's economy to run smoothly, the world needs lots of dollars. Why? Because dollars are used for global trade, oil purchases, reserves held by central banks, international lending, everything. So the United States has to supply the world with dollars. But how does it do that? By running trade deficits and borrowing money. In simple terms, America buys more from the world than it sells to the world. The dollars flow outwards. Those dollars then circulate through the global economy. So far, so good. But here's the trap. The more dollars the United States sends out into the world, the more debt it accumulates at home. And eventually, investors begin asking a dangerous question. Can this country really sustain all of this debt? That's the dilemma. The world needs dollars, but supplying them weakens the system that gives the dollar credibility. That contradiction is the Triffin dilemma. So imagine the global economy as a casino. The dollar is the chips on the table. If there aren't enough chips, the game stops. So the casino keeps printing more and more and more and more chips. But eventually, the players start wondering, hang on, how many chips exist compared to the money in the vault? The casino, the house, has to keep the game going. But the more chips it prints, the more fragile confidence becomes. That's the Triffin dilemma. So why do... Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, young sir, as always. So that's why alternative systems keep popping up. But what happens if the casino chips eventually lose credibility? Oh, they're hedging. Countries will hedge against it. They're not abandoning the system, just preparing for the possibility of change. So the key insights I want you to take away this evening: the Iran story. It's theatre, darling. It's terrible that people are losing their lives on both sides of the divide. It's the oil story. It's the currency story. It's the alliance story. They're all connected to the same underlying tension, the global economy running on dollars. And the Triffin dilemma. So, are we standing on the verge? Here's the very sober answer. No serious economic evidence suggests an immediate collapse of the dollar system. But we are in a period where the system is being stress tested. Sanctions warfare, BRICS financial discussions, energy currency debates. They're signals of evolution, not necessarily imminent collapse. Every global financial system eventually reaches a moment when the rules start to bend. The real question isn't whether the dollar system will change. It's whether the next system arrives through careful reform or through crisis. So I've tried to explain the varying moving parts tonight. I hope this has made sense for you. That's why my brain was full before I started the live. It's not about Iran. I'll say it like this. Energy doesn't just heat homes, it shapes geopolitics. Countries that control the pipelines, the ports, and the resources often end up controlling the political conversation too. So when you read the newspapers and you see the evening news, the TV news, and or even on social media, most people are like, oh, it's this and it's that, and look at this scud going across, and look at this ballistic missile landing in this country and that country, and it's all about Iran. America is Israel's attack dog. Power in the modern world isn't just about tanks or factories. It's about who runs the financial system that everyone else has to plug into. So tonight we've talked about Iran, about energy routes, about currencies, and the strange paradox at the heart of the global financial system. But when you step back from the headlines, something deeper comes into view. The modern world runs on systems most people never, ever see. Shipping lanes crossing oceans, pipelines running beneath continents, financial markets moving trillions of dollars every single day. And underneath all of it sits something even more fragile. Trust. Trust in currencies, institutions. Trust that the machinery of the world will keep turning tomorrow just as it did yesterday. And for the last 80 years, that machinery has largely revolved around one center of gravity: the dollar. But every global system eventually evolves. Not always through collapse, often through pressure, adjustment, and the slow shifting of power from one era to the next. So when you see the narrative and it's all about bombing Iran, bombing Iran, bombing Iran, but then there's a subtext of oil and energy, you'll see writ large, those tensions over energy and currencies and alliances or trade, you're not just watching isolated events, you're watching the tectonic plates of the global system moving beneath our feet. And the challenge for me and you, all of us, governments, institutions, ordinary people, it is to navigate that change without losing the stability that allows societies to flourish. Because the goal isn't chaos. The goal is continuity. My final thought. The real story of our time, of today, isn't the crisis of the moment. The way the newspapers are telling you what to feel. The TV news pointing in a direction that doesn't feel right. It's not the crisis that's going on right in front of us. It's the quiet transformation of the system that holds the world together. And that's why all the criticism for Trump's coming out, because they can't see what he's doing or trying to do. Now, I'm not his fanboy. I'm sure he's going to make mistakes. But this is a high-risk strategy. But I came tonight wanting to allay your fears, give you an insight into something that you never see, you never understand. And sometimes it's a real mind fuck trying to get grasps of it or a grasping of it. But I leave these lives there for you to return to at any point in the future. So you'll go away tonight having chatted with everybody in the chat and listen to what I've said and grasp some of it. Because for those that are asking me, is this World War III? No, absolutely, categorically not. And anybody telling you the shit's hitting the fan, wrong shit. It's not about Iran. By a country mile. But they need the central bank. Thank you for your likes. If we could have, I mean, we've got over 100 people still watching. So if 5 of you can hit the likes, please, if you've enjoyed what we've done tonight with the chat. And spring's coming, says Enigma Blue. Do you know that to leave you with a positive, it doesn't get dark until after 6 o'clock in the evening. And it's light at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're getting 12 hours of daylight now. As long as we don't have that grey firmament and we get a little bit of orange ball every now and again. But spring's just around the corner. The daffs are up. There's a lot to be positive about. Do not read the bullshit newspapers. Do not buy into the propaganda machine. And most importantly, do not, under any circumstance, listen to these lying politicians who couldn't lie straight in bed. So the last couple of days, it's all about he's no Churchill. It's the Donald, it's the Orange Man and international law. They're not telling you the truth. They're not giving you succor, support, understanding, context. Because then you'll find out what their game is. And you'll find out how certain politicians have got a 25 million healthy bank balance. Where have they amassed that from? Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. Rest easy. I hope this has helped if there was any anxiety, if you were worried about World War III, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If we were at war, they would have been bombing the shit out of each other for the last 3 or 4 days, and they haven't. And Starmer can send out a rowing boat out to Cyprus that's going to get there in 4 or 5 days. This is not World War III. They want you to feel that it is. They want you to react as if it is, but it's not. And that's why I've taken my time trying to explain it tonight for you. They're bullshit peddlers. The lot of them. But I will stand with my own integrity. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. My name's Adrian Allen. This is the Theatre of the Mind, live 296, and this is not a show. This is a mission for truth. And the mission continues. 7:15 for Parish Notes on Sunday. Live starts at 7:30. I think we'll get back to doing lots of little bits and lots of overviews and a little bit more interaction. I promise you that for Sunday. So wherever you go, whatever you do, be safe, be well. Do not buy into the bullshit narrative. Please don't. And if we've got the Zeitgeist Barometer there, keep voting daily. And if you feel that the world is a little less safe, just come to these lives. I'll look after you and I'll calm things down because that's the right thing to do. See you Sunday, 7:30. Sleep well. It's not fucking World War III.